usually the first few minutes, a couple minutes, there's maybe one or two people watching. And I'm sure one of them is my mom or dad. So
nice. I like the StreamYard app. What got you onto that? I've only ever done like Zoom and stuff like that.
Oh man, I think it was actually Nice Horse. I was watching a stream a few weeks ago, and you guys were using this.
Yeah, Katie figured that out. It's pretty good for like group chats and stuff.
Really good. It's good. It sounds really good. I'm not even wearing headphones or nothing.
Yeah.
Great. And it's just like a maximum of like 6 people, I think, with the free one.
Yeah.
Right.
More than that.
Yeah, I don't think so. If it gets more than that, then it just people can't stop talking or won't talk for fear of talking over people. Anyway, Ben Shillabeer and Barb Hoagland and Paul Bergeron. Nice. So yeah, thanks for coming to hang out for a little bit. It's kind of early for musicians, so I feel the pain. I thought we'd just kind of go around the circle and kind of introduce yourself and who you're playing for, and kind of what you're doing right now, just to kind of stay busy. And we'll just kind of, keep it brief-ish, but also we got lots of time. So start with Joel.
Cool. I'm Joel. I play in a band called Whale and the Wolf. And we didn't actually like post anything about it because this happened long enough ago that we kind of knew it was going to get canceled, but we just lost like a month and a half tour or something like that, which is, everybody's going through that, but we were kind of lucky in the sense that we hadn't announced it yet. So we could kind of like quietly just take care of all that stuff. And we just recorded a record last year that we're about to put out. So we're kind of just like talking about, having these kind of Zoom meetings and talking about how we're going to promote it without doing shows and kind of trying to figure that out. But yeah, other than that, I'm just playing drums a lot and hanging out at home with my wife. And yeah.
Right on. Great. That's a month and a half tour just gone.
That's rough.
Yeah.
That's something that's probably going to come up a lot today is like a guesstimate of how many gigs have we all lost or are going to lose if the summer is out now. I know me personally, I'm well over 30, I think, at this point. And I wasn't even considering what I had that busy because I have another baby coming. So I'm trying not to take gigs, at the end of August. So
baby maker.
Pumping them out.
That's right. It's another boy.
Yeah.
Congrats, that's out there.
Yeah.
But, sorry, to answer your question, Brendan, my name is Greg Williamson. I played my first show in a bar November 16th, 1993 with a punk band called Punched Unconscious back in the day.
Wow.
Yeah, I just kind of went through the whole system, and eventually I was like, I need to get better, so I studied with a guy named Lyle Molzan, who now plays with Dean Brody. Went to school for about a year before we started a band called Tupelo Honey. Toured in that band, toured with the Econoline Crush for about 7 years, and now I'm mainly with Dan Davidson and whoever hires me. So, that's it.
Nice.
Cool. Krista.
So I'm Krista Wodelet. I play with a band called Nice Horse, and that is my one and only gig. I'm just a fake drummer. I started drumming.
True.
Thanks, Greg. I started drumming about 4.5 years ago, actually, for Nice Horse. So my learning curve has been steep. I was an orchestral bassoon player before that. And I've actually taken a lot of lessons with Greg. So if I'm terrible, it's Greg's fault.
I've been saying that for you.
I guess the silver lining to this for us has been like just being able to catch up on some of the businessy stuff. And I guess like for those of you who are involved in running your bands, like Joel, it sounds like you're probably kind of in that boat too. It's like we were so busy on the road and we were still like trying to do all the things. So we've kind of had a chance to get caught up on some loose ends, but it's definitely been rough not knowing where the next check is coming from. So yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Weird times.
Super
Very
weird.
cool. Bassoon to drums. In no time flat. That's great.
Yeah.
Well, and you definitely are a drummer. So
thank you. Now this is official, I think. If I'm in a drum hang, I'm a drummer, right?
Yeah, well, we'll see if Casey's watching, and if Casey gives the okay, then I think we're good.
He sits on the council.
She's also a great singer.
Yes. Yep.
I also sing. Yeah, it's true.
Excellent. Maybe I'll dig up some video later, and we'll put that up on the
cool
thing. Corbett.
Hello. My name is Corbett Frasz, and I play with two primary bands. One's called Black Mountain Whiskey Rebellion, and the other one is Clayton Bellamy Congregation. And I'm not going to tell you how old I am, but Greg, I played my first gig. I don't know when I played my first gig other than high school, but I started touring. I started touring full-time rock and roll bands in 1989. I was 17 years old, and and like everyone else, I just do whatever people ask me to do or hire me to do. Actually, Krista was in a band called Sid New York, and I played on one of their records.
You did, yeah.
Quite a long time ago, recording in a log cabin, actually.
Oh my God.
That was a little while ago.
Yeah, exactly.
That's crazy. Very cool. Okay, well, that's great. Short introductions. Now I have to stoke the fire, right?
What about you, Brendan? You didn't tell us all about you. Tell us about yourself.
No, okay. Well, I guess I'm just kind of like I'm kind of a hired gun, I guess. I kind of you know how we kind of go through like, you know, phases of like positivity and like negativity in terms of, you know, what we do. Sometimes I just consider myself a pinch hitter, you know, if somebody can't make a gig, that seems to happen more often than not. So just kind of like the cleanup hitter, like the cleanup pitcher or whatever you want to call it.
Sneak in pitcher?
Relief pitcher. I don't watch baseball, man.
None of us do right now. I need more credit in that.
So the NHL is supposed to be going back to work in June.
And what's that again? Wow. My memory? What's the NHL?
I have no idea. I don't care. I mean, we're in Edmonton. I don't even care about the Oilers.
Yeah. Oh, whatever. You're going to get punched in the face next time you walk down the street.
That's right. I dare you.
Social distancing, so you won't act like.
Yeah, you can punch me all you want. I still won't care about the Oilers. Sorry. So yeah, I just I tend to play for a lot of people, and actually this summer was supposed to play a bunch with Kaylee Cardinal.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, she's fantastic.
She's great.
Folky, bluesy, soul-y kind of stuff, and it looks like that's all probably not going to happen too. So,
right, that sucks.
Yeah, I mean, I'm assuming she hasn't said anything about it, but it looks like, you know, most festivals are considering not happening. So,
well, I think that if there's any people watching or listening, that we're all from Alberta, and I think I was just told yesterday or last night that I think yesterday they made official all large gatherings in Alberta are done for the summer.
Yeah.
So I guess I don't know what exactly the parameters are for a large gathering, but you know, the majority of the things that keep us busy in the summertime are probably not. You know.
Yeah, I think Ontario's in the same boat, from what I heard, and I'm sure BC will be as well. It seems like the more kind of condensed populations will be kind of clamping down on that kind of thing. I think Saskatchewan is in talks to like open up again, like to.
That's right. Yeah.
We're really good actually, as far as all of this goes. So. Yeah. My other industry that I'm in, actually, I just got emailed a pretty detailed message about it. So they're going to start opening up more essential businesses at the beginning of May, and then my businesses they're going to start implementing on the 19th of May. But they're going to, depending on the numbers, if there's an outbreak, obviously it won't happen. But the business as we know it for the next little while will be completely different. Mm-hmm. So there's an incredible amount of parameters as far as reopening. So when we start having these businesses open again, like restaurants and bars, which primarily, for the next foreseeable future, if we do start playing live, it's going to be local, mm-hmm. and even those venues for the next foreseeable future are not going to be open. And if they are, the rules are going to be vastly different as far as capacity and time being open and the way things are being served. Like in my industry, if it opens, for instance, I have a barbershop that I do when I'm not here, and we drink a lot of bourbon and beers and stuff like that, and that'll be gone. You can't hand people drinks anymore. So, a lot of us play in clubs that liquor sales are part of the revenue stream. So if you can't hand people drinks, or there's a issue with transmission of things through, drinking apparatuses, unless we all have those Saskatchewan Rough Rider, beer bar hats, we're going to have issues with that. So, stay extremely optimistic, but it's going to be a long time, I think.
Yeah.
That's wild. I didn't know that Alberta was considering, easing up. That's good to know.
Well, I don't know if I think everyone's going to follow what happens in Saskatchewan. Saskatchewan has such a low population, so and they have so much vast, small populations spread out in different areas. So,
right,
it could be a gong show. We could be having this discussion in 6 months, but let's hope not.
Yeah. I just I don't want it to end up like Las Vegas. I don't know if you guys saw that interview. Anderson Cooper interviewed the mayor of Las Vegas.
I did see it.
That lady is she is out of her mind. She wants to open up Las Vegas and be the test case for the states. And
there's other parts of the world that are doing that.
I saw that Anderson Cooper interviewed her or whatever, and he was just his mind was blown the whole time. It was a funny watch.
Yeah, it was very strange. It seemed like she was very disconnected from reality, and as long as we don't go that way up here, I think we'll be okay. But
I think you can just drink disinfectant, and I think we'll be okay.
Yeah,
inject it too. I think, right?
Yeah. Well, so you can pass around. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
We were talking the other day about drive-in gigs, like people looking at converting those old drive-in movie theaters to venues, and then people just roll up in their cars. Although obviously, like for us, we need some travel restrictions and stuff to be lifted before we can even see each other as a band, because we're like right across the country. So, but like that could be interesting if small groups can congregate and a band could play in front of a big field of cars.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Wow, that's a great idea.
Could be kind of weird, but
that's cool though.
I think that's a great idea. We were having a band kind of meeting a couple days ago, and we were talking about a couple guys from our band are live in America, so we have no idea when borders are going to open.
Right? Yeah.
There's, as bad as all of this is, I think there's going to be the idea of entertaining people is going to. I think a lot of, we're so innovative as a society, as a first world society. We come up with ways of fixing things. So I think there's going to be a whole new stream of live venues that maybe weren't known as live venues before. Live venues that can have a substantial amount of people, but not being close together, or venues that you would never even think would have live entertainment are now where you go to see a band. So there could be some interesting things coming out for sure. But yeah, like a drive-in theater. There's a drive-in theater. Do you guys know what Enderby is?
Oh yeah.
Enderby, right in between Salmon Arm and Vernon.
Yeah, the Starlight or something, right?
Years ago, in the summertime, with an ex of mine, we used to go out to that drive-in, and it was fantastic. Especially for like my generation. When I was a little kid, my parents would take us to drive-ins on the weekends, and it was a normal thing. We'd watch Jaws or whatever. But yeah, the drive-in, it's a great idea, and there's been literally 1,000 music videos shot at drive-ins. So why don't we start using them for gigs, right?
Yeah.
There. Cool. If I had lots of money, I'd do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Joel, you were going to say something there.
Oh, it was just a joke on the whole disinfected thing. How at your barber shop you can start passing around disinfectant instead of bourbon.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Clorox with your beard trim.
I'll get a team of lawyers together and we'll discuss that.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Oh, gross. Oh man. So I thought it'd be cool to kind of talk about. I mean, Krista, you mentioned the catching up on the business side of things, and maybe could go into some detail about that and kind of what we're doing that's maybe not related to playing that we now have time to kind of work on, or maybe it is related to playing, but it's just not performing, you know?
I mean, like, I just submitted a bunch of our SOCAN NLMPs the other day. Like, you know, it's just like stuff like that isn't really, like, that doesn't really have a firm deadline, and always seems to just fall by the wayside. Uh-oh, Greg doesn't
lost Greg
anymore.
Okay.
And but yeah, like from a drumming perspective, I mean, this is it's an interesting time because for me at least, like I've always, since I was a drummer, I had a gig. So I've always just been sort of trying to catch up to whatever I had to do in the band. And I never really had a lot of time to, you know, to just sit and work on random technique or whatever. So this is kind of a good time for that because we don't have any gigs. So I don't need to be like worrying about learning a cover or just trying to get through something. I can actually like drill down on some of the stuff that I missed in this really accelerated thing that I did. So it's like, it's kind of a gift in that sense. Because that's how I'm used to learning music, like, is to have, I had years and years in my teens and 20s that I like, you know, practice these instruments. And then with drums, I just missed that completely. So.
Interesting. Before we move on, Casey has this question for you.
Oh yeah. So Bandy, Nice Horse, because we're not busy enough, we started developing a scheduling app for other small bands. It's basically, you know, we started working on it because we were using this whole spreadsheet system to organize our tours, and it was getting really cumbersome. And so we thought we'd develop an app. And then we realized a lot of other bands have that problem too. So we're still in beta testing actually. And we've had some great beta testers who were able to just like create some fake shows and poke through the app, even though no one's touring right now. So we're trying to just take advantage of the time to sort out some of the bugs. If anyone's interested in testing it for us, we're at bandyapp.com. So it's at BANDIE.
Cool.
That's
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So it's good for Casey to know because he does a bunch of TM work. So
exactly, yeah. So it's still going, but it's a little slow because no one's on the road right now. It's a little trickier to get bugs worked out and things. So
excellent.
Yeah.
Right on. So in terms of playing and stuff like that, are you still taking lessons with Greg, or are you just kind of?
Yeah. So my model has basically just been to take lessons with whoever I can hook up with. We were recording in Vancouver in February, and I did a lesson with Flavio Cirillo, who I'm sure you guys all know. He's awesome, and I just kind of do him here and there. I did a hang with my friend Nico Friesen the other day, another Vancouver-based drummer who's great, and we just talked about some technique stuff. So it's a good time. I mean, to be hassling drummers online. My perspective. So
like this.
Exactly. So you can all expect an email from me shortly.
Amazing. And Corbett, you're talking about you know, you have your barbershop and that kind of thing going on, but what else are you?
Well, you know, when you ask a question about how this whole pandemic has changed things, for me, both revenue streams shut down instantly because we're right in the crosshairs of that, which is good. But I think it's changing so many things. And one of the things, like for me personally, is the last little while, I know this is a drum talk, but I've been primarily just doing both of my projects. Actually, Black Mountain, we were supposed to be in the studio to 2 weeks ago or whatever, we had an awesome big session booked with a great producer, and we were really stoked about it. So that's all put on hold. So I've been really doing a ton of songwriting and demoing, and because of the interactiveness online now, which is more prevalent than it was before, I feel like there's an incredible amount of communication going via the interweb, musically, technically, and like Chris was saying, with lessons. So, you know, when things go back to normal, I think a lot of these things aren't going to, I mean, anything that retains brick and mortar is going to probably, unless it's a necessity, it's not going to be absolutely necessary. So for me, I've been doing a ton of songwriting. I've been doing songwriting with people, which I didn't do very much before this happened. I've also been doing, I have a very good friend with a pretty decent basement studio, kind of like yours, Brendan. And so I've never done drum tracks from home. I mean, I have my V drums that I do my demos sort of thing. I just do it basically on a template through MIDI. But I'm actually like invested in working on like drumming from home, because, you know, I was always under the impression there's some drummers that I know that have invested an incredible amount of money. One of them that's probably on this stream right now, whose initials are BL. But I never make that investment because I've been fortunate enough that I still get invited to go and do a fair bit of studio work. So I never made that investment, or the learning curve, which is also a big part of doing it decently. So this time has really helped me with a lot of that stuff. Like, you know, 3 months ago, you were like, hey, Corbett, we need, you know, 12 tracks of pretty decent, you know, DAW drum tracks, and we need you to send it to this person or that person. I'd be like, well, I don't want to invest that money right now, and I don't really need to do it in my house because I could pick up the phone and make that happen anywhere. So for me, this has really helped that. Like my communication game musically or songwriting with people has upped itself immensely, and I think it'll stay like that. You know, I think so anyway.
Awesome. That's great. And do you play guitar, keyboards?
Yeah, like, guitar is my primary instrument, actually. Guitar.
Oh.
I started guitar and piano, so I should say my primary instrument. People don't pay me money to go on tour and play guitar.
Well, they might now.
I've been playing guitar for 30 years. Yeah.
Oh my God, you just got an offer to go on tour in the comment section.
Oh, fantastic.
That's great.
I'll show up with string Steve Vai guitar.
Oh man, that's great. Greg, you're back. Oh, we can't hear you though. Greg, we can't hear you.
Are you on mute, buddy?
No. Did you pick your microphone?
He's got kids, guys. Give him a break.
Yeah.
Maybe they can help him with
it. Oh no, you're unmuted. Did you have to pick a microphone, Greg? Like pick your audio input?
Did you change computers?
Use your hands.
Mine meant for us.
Do you have a whiteboard?
Oh. Is that a microphone? I feel like I've seen that in the dark corners of the web. Yeah.
I think that was considered a shoulder massager in the 80s.
Oh man. Well, we'll see. We'll kind of we'll let you do your thing, Greg. When you get kind of plugged in, plug it in, and then I think you should be able to choose it in your options. Joel, why don't you talk about what you've been working on with either Whale or CD, or what you're just doing in your own time?
Yeah, pretty much the same as both Krista and Corbett. Actually, I do all the like you were saying, the for SOCAN, those live music performance notification forms. I just like filled out and submitted them for like the last 2 years for us. And I played in another band called Milk and another band called CV. And we're kind of like figuring out this like writing from afar thing. So I'm also buying some stuff for like a home studio. trying to figure out how to get some decent drum tones in my tiny little rented practice space that, sounds like garbage. So trying to make it sound halfway decent. Learning how to kind of use MIDI a lot, because both those bands use a lot of electronics. So kind of figuring out how to, make my own sample beats and be able to find or manipulate the samples to be the sounds that I want without having to send it off to like a producer or somebody else. So just kind of, trying to learn how to be a little bit more self-sufficient as well. And like, I think, which like Corbett was saying too, is going to be a huge thing, I think, going forward. Like, and same as Krista, like both, especially being in these 3 bands, the biggest problem for all of them in terms of writing is having the time to write, because we're all playing in a bunch of projects. We're like always on the road. So being able to write from a laptop on the road is going to speed up the writing process like 100% for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. The biggest thing is, for me is my excuse for a long time was I was always surrounded by people that were so technologically superior to what I did. And I was always worried about, I don't want, when we've all had hours and hours of frustrating MIDI stuff or latency issues or all these things that you're trying to fix, and it's getting in the way of creating the art that you're trying to create. Yeah. And the better that you get at it, the less that those roadblocks are in the way, and you get the confidence. Plus YouTube. I mean, where would we be without YouTube?
Where we were 20 years ago when you had to ask a friend.
When you went to fix a leaky faucet and then ended up
Exactly. Oh man. I feel like I heard Greg tapping on his microphone.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hello.
This is from Paul Bergeron. Paul's making fun of you.
Actually, where I got the Rode Podcaster mic from was back when the USB mics were a thing. I asked Jeff Dalziel what kind of mic I should get, and he said, get a Rode Podcaster. They're pretty awesome. And this obviously was probably like 10 years ago. So now, I mean, it looks like I don't know what it looks like. Yes, a relic.
That's one word for it.
Yeah. Greg, I'm going to one-up you. I just found this the other day. So for many years, I was in a band called the Roadhammers. And
never heard of them.
Yeah. Yeah. I still know them.
We call them the Load Crammers.
Yeah, exactly. So in 2008, back in the MySpace days, we were doing podcasts, but they weren't called podcasts. We were doing them on our website and streaming through our MySpace page. Yeah. And we had top of the line. Check this baby out.
Wow.
Oh,
yeah. She's got one too.
I've had this thing since like 1999 or something.
Yeah.
Oh man.
I feel bad that I don't have one of those now.
They still hold up really well. Like, it's pretty decent.
They use a memory card primarily with a USB stick that you put in. And I found a bunch of old podcasts and a bunch of old demos, and it's pretty good. It's pretty good, actually.
Right on.
No.
Yours is plugged in. What are you using it for?
Well, I was thinking about trying to use it for my audio on this thing, and then I didn't, but because I haven't tested it yet. But I just found it in a box the other day, and I was like, I'm doing so many Zoom calls and conference calls. I was like, maybe I should try upping my audio game. So
I think we bought this in like 2004, 2005, and I think it was about $7,000 or something like that.
This is my second one. I actually had one stolen out of my car one time when I lived in LA, and
yeah, I'll give it back to you.
And
I think your name's on the back of it.
Damn it, Corbett. I have, thanks to Jeff Dalziel, I've upgraded my recording situation a little bit for vocals, so I'm no longer using my Zoom for everything. I just want the world to know.
Is that his favorite? Is that the blue bottleneck? Is that your bottle?
It's a blue Spark.
Spark.
Yeah, so I record background vocals on that thing for our records. Yeah, and it works pretty well. That's his pick.
I remember, I think Dan Davidson mentioned Jeff likes that one, and so did Darren and all the Jeff disciples like that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
crazy bunch of folks.
Just before we get to Greg, because Greg's got to follow up with his answer. Paul asks Joel. He's got a question for Joel.
Oh man, I should disclaimer. I used to work at a coffee shop, which is why I know these things. It really just depends on how much coffee and water you're using. If you have the right ratio, it'll be great. I usually do 31 grams to 500 milliliters. It's always tasty.
There you go,
Ask
Paul.
Paul if he bought that Technoborm on Wish.
Oh, man. So, Greg, we're talking about what we're doing now that maybe doesn't have anything to do with drums, but that's kind of like, you know, kind of a side hustle or whatever. Or if you're working on drum stuff, what are you doing that's not performing? And
I'm kind of, well, I have an almost 2-year-old at home, and my wife is still able to work from home. So basically during the day, I'm kind of like a stay-at-home dad right now. Nice. And we're trying to get him transferred to the other bedroom. So I'm literally building furniture ordered online in big, heavy boxes and building like a bed right now. So nothing too exciting as far as I'm still trying to, you know, I get down and I hit the kit once in a while, but just to make sure I still know how to play. But I'm really itching to actually to play a lot again, because this was supposed to be a busy time for us all. I'm sure we were wrapping up into summer, and my April and May were really busy, and now I have obviously nothing going on in that realm. But we're talking about revamping a project. I can't really say which one it is, but like, you know, we're talking about using this time to sort of revamp a project that I was involved in the past and see what we can do with that. So, yeah.
Right on.
Cool.
Great, man. I'm not going to post Paul's follow-up comment. Or maybe I should. He also asked.
A lot of things fit great in his butt.
That's the one. He's asking about grind size, Joel.
Oh, boy.
This is quickly turning into a coffee stream. Oh, my God.
You can DM me. We can talk about this personally.
It's all
Joel,
good.
You have that calm barista demeanor about you. It all makes sense.
That's right. Yeah. All the chaos of the cafe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we are interested. What kind of grind size do you favor?
For anybody who doesn't know, Technoborm is like just a drip coffee machine. So just like I guess we call it like a medium grind size for like a paper filter, a little coarser if you're using a metal filter. And then just tweak it. If it's too bitter, make it a little bit coarser. If it's like kind of sour tasting, make it a bit finer.
There you go. And this is all being recorded and will be posted after for all you coffee nerds.
Well, you may feel like this isn't relevant to musicians, but I mean, when you're out on tour, coffee is integral part of the top of the
booth.
Man.
Oh yeah.
And I'm super
proud. The one who's always driving. So
yeah, exactly. So I don't know. I'm super prejudiced when I meet people that don't drink coffee. I don't
trust them.
Yeah.
Well, Corbett, isn't your shop close to a place called Sought and Found?
Yeah, it's like 2 blocks away.
Dude, Sought and Found is the bomb.
Is that in Calgary?
Is that right? Yeah.
Cool.
It's owned by this Japanese couple, I think, and they go out themselves and source beans, and it's just a small brick and mortar mom and pop type place, and they're so picky about everything. It's amazing. I went in there with a friend that was playing down there, and you know, he asked them if they had cream that he could put in their coffee, and she was like, "No, you can't put that in there."
Yeah.
Like, great. This is my kind of place. This is great.
Well,
nice.
Corbett, I don't know if we can be friends because I mean I love coffee, but I can't drink it on show days. I have to admit, I can't drink it and play. Alcohol, yes. Coffee, no.
I'm like that with absinthe.
We're on a whole other level.
Yeah, no absinthe.
This James Bundy.
I love it. This is the coffee.
Brendan, I'll leave that one to you.
Amazing.
This espresso's terrible. No.
That's the second thing you said people are going to punch you in the face for.
Oh, man, I'm going to get beat up after this.
What is it with the whole coffee thing? Like, it's like musicians in basements drinking coffee and coffee, and then your bandmates come on and they're like coffee. Like, you should have your own coffee company.
Ooh, hello.
Oh, sorry, nice. That's me.
You're taking college now? This is cool.
I used to like drink Tim Hortons 2 or 3 times a day when we were at MacEwan there. Like going to university. We were there from like 7 a.m. till midnight every single day. Go to Tim Hortons 2 or 3 times a day, get a large double. And then I started playing in this band called Vera. And Paul and the guitar player Kyle, they were both big into like coffee, and I resisted for a very short bit, and then they got me into Transcend and Phil and Sebastian, and after like having good coffee, I have one of these and I'm great for the day. Just a nice little, and it's kind of like scotch or like cigars or wine. It's like all the tasting notes and the palate and all that. It's an obsession for sure. Yeah. Oh my God, Joel, is it your birthday today?
It is. Yeah.
Oh man!
Happy birthday!
Thank you.
Happy birthday!
Happy birthday!
Okay, there's my guitarist.
Yeah, nice.
That's nice.
Is that how you spell your name?
Yeah, actually. Yeah, you got the perfect number of L's there. That's great.
5 L's.
You should buy yourself a Dunnet titanium snare drum for your birthday.
I would totally be okay with that.
Ron had a live stream last night I was watching. He was building a manganese snare drum.
What's manganese?
It's like a super, super light metal that's really hard to get, apparently.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah, so saving the money. Paul says happy birthday. Oh, Rick LeClaire is on too, and we lost Greg, so this is going well. It's funny having time to like work on other things has been nice. I took technically second. I took a lesson from Mark Sager a couple of weeks ago, work on some technique stuff, and then last week I've started what I hope to be like semi-regular lessons with a guy in the States for some technique stuff, and having the chance to sort some stuff up and not have sore hands and only be able to play for 10 or 15 minutes at a time has been great.
So you were having, we did this once when you first started this, when we were talking injuries and problems. Like, do you have hand issues to this day? Like,
yeah, I did. So I think it started in my last year of university. I tried to change the way I played. Oh, I don't have. So I started my kind of like graduation recital thesis was like studio guys, and I tried to emulate Keith Carlock, which is a big mistake because that guy plays so fucked up. Yeah, it's crazy. So I started to play traditional grip, and that was detrimental to my left hand in a big way. And then I developed like a nerve issue coming out of the left side of my neck into my shoulder. And then, over the course of 2 or 3 years, everything kind of would go numb and pins and needles all the way into my fingers and hands and all the way up into my face. And nothing worked well there. So I started holding the stick like this. This. And then I had to hold a stick like this because I couldn't pinch it, And then that kind of worked its way to my right hand because it had to be the same. And I ended up just like death gripping the sticks and playing like this all the time. So that caused all kinds of problems with this joint in my thumb, in the base of my thumb, in my fingers, like the fulcrum kind of thing. Everything stiffened up and was tight all up to my arms. And then, the last few weeks I've had the chance to kind of work on how to hold the stick properly again, back to square one. So,
it's interesting whenever I see you play, you're a very tall fella, but you sit so properly. Like you're like literally a 90-degree angle of like, in your shoulders are down, and when you see you play, you look like, I watched your Toto thing, and you sit so proper. Where so I'm surprised to hear you struggling with things like that, because you're like the epitome of, like in the 90s when you'd watch those drum clinics, those those VHS drum clinics and stuff, and they would always talk about the physics of drumming, right, sort of thing,
right,
where the physics and the movement of limbs and playing, and you're like the epitome of that. So it's surprising to hear, because when I see videos or pictures of myself playing, I literally look like I'm falling over top of my drum set.
Right. Right. I don't think that there's anything wrong with a little bit of like forward movement. And I appreciate the comment on posture. That's something that I've been working on, but it's more what is it stemming from? Talking to Mark Sager about this in our briefs of the lesson. It's more about what's happening after each stroke. And after each stroke of mine, I'm stopping and then moving again. So there's no fluidity, so posture might be good, but there's no fluidity, and everything is just kind of like so controlled, and there's no flow. There's no looseness. You know what I mean?
Right.
Which is what I started taking lessons with this new guy last week that I'm hoping to continue with if I get a grant, because it's really expensive. But it's all about flow and just relaxing. And I've always had trouble with just letting my arms do what they're supposed to do instead of trying to like control it and, stab things out. So, yeah.
It's almost like, if I can jump in on that really quick, because that's something I work on a lot, is that fluidity aspect of playing, especially when I was playing more like jazz and improvised stuff a few years ago, and especially in school. But you almost have to like take a step back. Like your precision and your time like gets worse before it gets better again, because you're being so loose. And you're like teaching yourself to do that, and you're kind of learning those motions. Those motions kind of like at first, at least for me, was a lot sloppier. Like my time was not nearly as precise as when I would like, play, like you were saying, like very controlled, and you hit the note and then you kind of move on and play the next one. And it's very precise, but like you said, there's no fluidity to it. But once you kind of get this kind of looseness happening, you start to get some of that back, and you start to be in control of those looser motions, and you're able to use, you kind of know how much movement you need to use to get to the next thing in time, and do it very precisely. But at least for me, I found it was kind of like you have to take 2 steps back and then work on your time again, but with these new looser, more relaxed motions. And I feel like just now I'm like starting to get to where I have the control I had like 4 years ago, but with this kind of more relaxed technique.
That's exactly it. And Casey just commented here too. It's like the orchestral thing of pulling the sound out of the drums. It's very counterintuitive when you're playing really hard and really big to pull sound out of the drums, because you're just, trying to put on a show. You're trying to be like the show, showmanship or whatever you want to call it. But it is that contact and move to the next thing instead of like hit, move, hit kind of stroke thing, right?
Yeah. And it's the same in like for every instrument, like I'm teaching some bassoon now that I'm at home, like online, and like working with these kids, it's small muscle stuff, right? Like with woodwinds, you're talking like tiny motions, but it's all the same concepts. Like it's just like staying loose and economy of motion, and then with drums it's the same thing. It's bigger muscles, bigger movements, but the concepts are like, it's an interesting reminder to kind of go back to that stuff, and then take it over to the kit.
Well, Krista, for you being kind of considered, I guess, one of the newer drummers, even though you don't sound like it, you've been playing for quite a while now. When I see you play, you sit quite high as well. What was that to help singing, because you sing so much?
It's interesting actually. I've been kind of experimenting with my seat height over the last few months. It's just what felt comfortable to me. Like, I'm pretty tall. I'm like 6 feet tall. So it felt natural to sit really high at first. And it was helpful, like diaphragm wise for singing. But I think I'm not getting, I don't really have the range of sound that I should, I think, out of the snare sitting as high as I used to. So I'm trying to drop it a little bit just because I really only have, when I'm that high up, I really only have one option for hitting the snare. It's hard to rim shot, and it's hard to, it's hard to lay into it the way that I want.
Any physical issues being that high? Like,
what's that?
And do you have any physical ailments, like after a long tour playing or anything?
I mean, what Brendan's talking about, I definitely like kind of getting tight. I would get tight and Greg and I have talked about this. Like I would get really tight in my hi-hat hand sometimes. Like I'd find I was really, by the end of it, because we would play like 2 or 3 hour casino gigs sometimes. Oh, yeah. And by the end of 3 hours, I'd be just like gripping like in the hi-hat hand like nobody's business, like just trying to hang on to the stick basically. And so I've been working on really loosening up and kind of, like even like experimenting with this kind of thing, right? Because I'd have to do that just to stay in the game. At the end of 3 hours, I was like, I'd have to just drop these fingers entirely just to try to like, be able to make it to the end of the gig.
You'll get a lot of people asking you that, because that's so a few weeks ago I was on with Brendan, and there was a period in time where I had a lot of issues because I tried to learn the molar method. Molar method, but I was playing loud shows, and so and plus I was really bad at it. So when I went back to playing whatever way I was playing, I had a lot of health issues. And over the years, I created this, where I started playing with this thumbs up thing. But my fulcrum, these fingers are like open, Yeah.
Oh, really? So you actually like kind of play like this?
I don't do it consciously, but I just do, and it drives people crazy. I had drummers being like, "Man, what do you like?"
That's interesting.
Why are you doing that? My fulcrum has turned, and maybe that's from the molar thing, but my fulcrum has turned into these pads right here. This, unless I'm doing a press roll, I'm barely using my index fingers anymore.
Interesting.
I'll actually say the same though. I don't really use the index really at all. Like it's almost always like this when I'm holding a stick. I don't have a stick or I'd show, but same thing, because if you grip here too tightly, that's where you're gonna get that like really bad from hitting, like especially if you're doing rim shots. That's gonna get messed up pretty quick. And you can use it for control, like it's like you're saying, if you're doing like a press roll or you're doing double strokes or whatever. But I find whenever I'm doing any kind of big stroke, this one here is like so loose, it's just like flapping off the stick. That way there's no tension in the hand.
Drives people crazy.
I feel like Greg should pipe up here, because Greg, you grip pretty. It seems like your grip is pretty closed, even when you're playing really hard. You also use massive sticks.
These are just pad sticks. These are like Corpse Masters, but
oh yeah.
I don't know. I've always used big sticks. I've always been a Vic Firth 2B wood guy, and because I want the stick to do most of the work. And even for loud playing, like I think if you're gripping the stick, like, and you're gripping it hard the whole time and you're just bashing, you're really gonna screw up your arm. For me, my motion is more like I don't snap to play loud until the moment just before the stick hits the drum. So I'm all about like, if you're going to play loud, you can't waste energy. So if you're tight when you're up here and you're going to play loud, like, it's all about not having any wasted movement basically. But as far as I find that there are times when this finger does hang down a little bit, but I do, for the most part, I want the control of the stick because I want to make use of the fingers,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, as gross as that sounds.
It wasn't gross till you said
that. And that's how
thinking.
I want it helps me on the full. What's that? You all were, you back? I don't know. I've been asked about my technique before. Brendan, we talked about it in a past chat, and I think every drummer, like drummers have long arms, short arms. It's whatever works for you.
yeah, it's physiology plays a big role in how you can play, and I'm just starting to realize that. Like I've always wanted to kind of play big, and playing in the country music scene, especially, you're kind of expected to play really big and really loud, but I'm finding that doesn't necessarily work for my super long arms, and I just even doing that Rosanna thing the last couple of days and really digging into Shannon Forrest and Jeff and guys like that. They're not like big bashers. Like, and man, I don't know if you guys know this, but I saw Toto 2 years ago, and it was the best show ever. But just like, watching Shannon Forrest play and listening to how he sounded was just like, oh my God, like he sounds like he's playing so loud and so big, but he's not. I mean, he's hitting powerfully, but it's all very contained and very precise, and
it's very balanced.
Oh man,
is a guy like Matt Chamberlain is the same way, and he'll be the first to tell you don't need to play hard to get a big sound out of the drums. Like Casey was saying there, like orchestral thing of pulling the thing out of the drum, pulling the sound out of the drum. That has merit whether you're playing loud or quiet, because I do think there's a point where you can play so loud that you're choking the sound. It doesn't sound good anymore. You're only going to get so much out of that drum before you're just cranking it, and then you're going to get to the point where you're denting skins, and that's not going to help.
Same with cymbals, man. When I see a lot of drummers and out touring and guys, especially with the advent of in-ears being mandatory now, the mixes, man, there's people that are just pounding the piss out of their cymbals. And when you hit cymbals too hard, they don't sound good to me. I've seen that a lot. Like guys just wailing on cymbals. Now, there's also certain guys that I personally use big cymbals and I leave them quite loose. Some guys, if you tighten up your cymbals quite a bit, if you hit them harder, they work a little bit better. But the way my setup is, if I'm pounding the piss out of my cymbals, they just sound crashy, which sometimes you want, but definitely not all the time,
Yeah.
Right.
So
I think for me, on the cymbals, I think, I'm definitely, in the past, I've been known in the rock thing to be heavier on my cymbals just because you're competing with half stacks.
Yeah.
But in the country, it's completely different for me now in that I can play a little bit heavier on the kick and snare, be a little bit more medium on the toms to get the right tone. And then I find that I'm not hitting the cymbals as hard anymore, just because even from a concept of singing background vocals while you're playing, you're more conscious of, if I'm wailing on the cymbals, all the 58s on stage are picking that up.
Yeah.
And it's just going to come right back to me, my in-ears.
Well, and particularly if you're playing with female artists, or I'm in an all-girl band, right? And those cymbals sit right in the same range as female vocals.
Yeah.
So it can really obliterate a vocal hard, particularly with women. So it's an interesting.
On a small stage.
What's that?
If we're all doing festival stages where we have all this separation, it's great. But if you're playing, like, I don't know, for example, Century Casino St. Albert, where the stage size was basically set up for dueling pianos.
Yeah.
So you're basically crunched all next to each other. You have to be conscious.
Your overheads are the vocal mics up front, basically, and
Totally.
I
just want to follow up with Rick Leclerc asked if it was carpal tunnel, and I don't know, Krista, if you've gone to see anybody about this kind of thing, and if you've got any diagnosis. But
so I'm lucky, actually. I was pretty aware of it because that's an issue in orchestral playing too, and I actually had issues in my left hand in my orchestral days that were from bassoon playing. So I don't really mess around with that stuff. So I've been pretty I feel it creeping on sometimes in the 3-hour gigs, but I was pretty on top of figuring out ways around it and, adjusting my grip as soon as I felt myself clenching up. And so luckily I haven't been, I don't have carpal tunnel, thank God. And I've been pretty on top of, finding solutions in my technique to avoid it. Cause it is one of those things where if you let it, it's so tempting to just get through the gig and you're playing all summer and you can really make permanently hurt yourself. But I know how possible that is to do. And so I've been really, really aware of not letting myself get to that point. So
good. And
yeah.
I go to a place called Maloney Chiropractic in St. Albert, and they do the active release technique stuff.
Yeah.
And honestly, that's something that I've referred many people to for many years, and it works. A lot of times things are just, oh, well, you have carpal tunnel or whatever, and then it's not necessarily that, and sometimes people recommend surgeries and all this kind of really invasive stuff, and then they go to Maloney and they get ART done for a month and they're back playing full time. And I've seen that happen so many times that they're always the first people that I recommend to anybody having any issues, whether it's in your foot, in your arm, your hand, your neck, your back.
Yeah.
They're pretty awesome for that.
It is important to find the right medical professionals as musicians too, because you need someone who understands that we fall more into the category of athletes. Because you're like your average person, if they're doing something that hurts them, they stop. But athletes and musicians just push through it. Like we're kind of in that same category. So if you have someone who's treating you like, someone who has carpal tunnel from typing on a keyboard all day, like they just stop typing. They're not pushing through it for 4 or 5 hours a day practicing and playing gigs and stuff. So it's
terrible little circular stools. Do you know what I mean? Those little hard circular drum stools, those are absolute spine killers for me. I don't know if it is for you guys.
Shout out to Porter and Davies for not having a.
Yeah, you have a nice stool. I sat on Brendan's stool many times, and it's.
Oh man, I'm telling you. Yeah, it's more than I got skinny little bony ass too. So having something that's nice and soft is great. But yeah, I mean,
Greg, just to get to your thing too, active release worked fantastic for me, and also Graston. If you guys know what the Graston is, it's the same sort of idea.
Yeah, like the butter knife. Yeah.
Take out the butter tools and grease you up. And I've had the time that I was talking about when I was getting out of the molar method and I couldn't even turn the sinks on in the morning. I got introduced to Graston, and same thing, a month of Graston. I was climbing walls again. It was
cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. I've had that done, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, I've never had carpal tunnel. I mean, I saw 2 neurologists, a diagnostician, family doctor. I've been through 3 massage therapists, 2 physiotherapists, and 3 chiropractors. And my problem stems from right here. It's not it's not carpal tunnel, because these 3 fingers went numb, but these 3 did too, and my arm and my face and my back. It's like this thing. So the thing, like Greg was saying, the ART helped. And actually, I remember the first time my chiropractor did it. He did it right here, and he held the sheath of the nerve with a couple of fingers, and he pulled my arm so it would pull the nerve through the gap in the neck. It was the best and worst thing ever. But
it looked like a dick.
Have you ever done one where they go into your arm?
Oh,
that
man.
One's
what? Like my chiropractor's name is Thor too, so it's badass. Shout out to Thor. He's so great. I also
did he check your stool?
Check my.
Actually, speaking of stools, you guys, I have I don't use it all the time, but I have one of these. If you can see, it's when I was having some lower back issues years ago. I got recommended this, and this is a orthopedic drum stool that you're not supposed to use for long periods of time, but it's very concave over the years. It's kind of flattened out and it's very soft. And what it does, it's meant to, especially if you deal with sciatica and stuff like that, what it does is when you play on it, you're sort of at a pivotal point on your tailbone, and it builds all your stabilizer tendons and muscles through your lower back and through your hips and connected to your IT bands. And it looked corny. My friend Mike had a backline company, so it got me a really good deal on it. But it legitimately helped a lot. It really did.
Interesting. The other thing I found helped was IMS. If you guys have ever had IMS.
EMS?
IMS is like, it's like dry needling, like one needle, and they stick it in your muscle and they move it in and out and around until it hits the nerve bundle, and your muscle just like clamps down really hard for a second and then relaxes.
Wow.
That's the best all over. I mean, if you can not pass out while he's doing it, then great. But
it resets the muscle in its original spot. Isn't that what it does? Like,
because it's
like crazy.
Constantly. Sometimes they're just like constantly contracted, trying to compensate for muscle imbalances in places, and stick it in there and it just relaxes it and stretches it out. And it's just like, it's addicting. It's what it is.
I've always wanted to have that done. So that's cool that you brought that up, actually.
Mm-hmm. Definitely worth a shot if you have like chronic repetitive strain kind of stuff going on, especially like your forearms. Awesome.
You brought up something really interesting with orchestral training and stuff like that. And I experienced it a lot in the 90s. And I say this all the time, and people kind of half think I'm joking. But, as you get older, there is such a thing as overplaying and over-practicing as far as what the lactic acid and the things in your body can do. Like, people kind of think I'm half joking, but I tell people, I said, I very rarely practice at all anymore. I'm playing all the time. I'm playing to songs, and I'm playing on my demos, and I'm playing for people. And I used to play gigs when gigs were still happening. I was pretty busy. But other than just a bit of warm up before the gig, I almost never sit at a practice pad for an hour and wail away. I very rarely sit behind a drum kit with a YouTube video on and just wail away and stuff like that. And the correlation with that, the reason I bring that up is because, and also with my age being a little bit older, but my injuries kind of went away. My consistent overuse injuries sort of went away when I quit. I'd sit in my hotel room or on the tour bus all day practicing, and then get on stage and piss out of your drums for 75 minutes, and then not stretch after the gigs. And that's where I would run into problems. And so, like all of us, we have thousands and thousands of hours of drumsticks in our hands. For me in my line of work, I got to play songs really well. That's about it. That's all I really need to do. So big thing for me is I don't, especially on big gig days or if I'm on touring, I don't play drums very much beforehand. And I always stretch after. Like stretching after I stretch way more after a gig than I do before. I just do, and I think it's really saving me. I really do.
Do you have like some favorite stretches, Corbett?
You know what? I don't. Basically, all my stretches are just dealing with elbows and forearms. So I'm just doing your basic these things. I'm rolling my wrist quite a bit. I'm just doing a lot of this stuff. I'm doing a lot of these sort of things, and it's just because your tendons and your muscles are so pumped up and so full of blood and lactic acid and stuff like that if you just kind of let it subside, I think that's where a lot of problems come in. Then I do the basic, like my drumsticks over there, but the rolling of the drumsticks and stuff like that. But I will literally, if you're on tour with the dressing room, at the end of the evening, I'll grab a drink, whatever I'm drinking, and I'll literally just lean against a table with my arm down, and I'll just sit there and talk to people, stretching my forearms and my wrists out. And I feel like that's helped more than anything, So
cool.
Right. I have to ask Joel, because I saw Whale play in Toronto a couple of years ago, and it was you look like Animal back there. It was crazy. And obviously, I think you do. Do you do yoga? Is that your thing?
No, I should, but I haven't done it.
But you always look so jacked and stuff. So what are you doing? What do you like? Do you work out a little bit? But also, what do you do before a Whale show? Because that's some really intense music.
The thing about the Whale stuff that's interesting, live, because obviously it's a performance, right? You guys know, but in this case, being a member of the band as opposed to a hired gun, I'm part of the. Not that you're not a part of the show, but I'm part of the, I guess the image in a sense that Whale's image is a high energy live show. So I'm supposed to get into it and kind of do not do the animal thing, but like the misconception there is that I'm actually incredibly loose when that's happening. Like all of the motions I'm doing, there's not really much tension in my body at all. And that is not from like yoga or pre-show warm-ups. That's from like, I practice that way for those shows. Like I practice playing the songs like that so that when I'm doing that live, I'm not like making myself tense up because I'm doing something I'm not used to. And like, it's big motions, but they're still very loose, lots of molar. It's still lots of like Greg was saying, it can still be a big motion that's very loose. And then right at the end is where I'll use my wrist to make sure it's really, the sound that I want. And that's still, it's just a wrist motion. It's a very relaxed kind of thing. But warming up before a show, I still do I'll do 15 minutes of pad just to make sure, like lots of full strokes, really big, really relaxed. Make sure that I'm using the bounce and that I have my full range of motion. And I will do things like push-ups or whatever, just to kind of get the blood flowing. But that's maybe more for like the adrenaline than it is for the positive effects on the kit.
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I mean, that all makes sense. I just figured I'd ask because that show was crazy. I think it was at the Dakota.
Rivoli. It was at Rivoli.
Rivoli, yeah. Rivoli. Yeah. It's crazy. Okay, sweet. How much time do you guys have? Everybody pressed for time? Should we wrap this up shortly?
I'm good. I missed half of it, so.
Yeah. Sorry, Greg. Krista, if you want to try your mic out on a stream, feel free to do it during the stream, like Greg did.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know. This is just kind of popped into my mind. I thought maybe just like a quick kind of few questions, because I think it'd be interesting to know your influences as a drummer. You got to pick two. You got to pick one from when you started playing, and you got to pick one right now. Who are your influences? So starting with Joel, going around the circle.
Oh man. Does anyone know the band Seosin? That drummer was like my favorite drummer, or one of my favorite drummers when I was really young, and is like maybe more than I realized has had a lasting impact on the way I play, particularly with Whale. I think like the kind of drum parts that I write for the new material, and then the way I kind of interpret the old material, which I didn't write live, and kind of the types of fills I play and stuff. I think his name is Alex Rodriguez.
Yeah,
he's crazy. He's awesome. Fantastic. Yeah, very busy drummer, but still like somehow the parts are very, very well thought out and still very musical and appropriate for the songs, which is very much the way I play. I play a lot of notes, but I try and make sure that they all are very, important. And if they're not getting in the way of anything, that's how I feel. I think maybe it comes from the jazz training too, but like I feel like I need to be interacting with the song, I guess. But anyway, so he's a big one. And now I'm really into, I was telling Brendan, I took a lesson with this guy recently. He's a Danish drummer. His name is Jonathan Ludvigsen. He plays in a band called Athletic Progression, I think. Yes. He's great. He's like a hip hop kind of guy. He does a lot of like hybrid kit kind of stuff, like electronics and acoustic stuff. Very interesting sounds, kind of unique approach.
Cool.
Yeah.
Excellent. Krista.
Well, so when I started, I used to play in a band called Sydney York. I played keyboards and sang and played bassoon. And we had two drummers we worked with in that band who were definitely my biggest influences when I started playing. They were my two first teachers, and I loved how they played with us. And it's Nico Friesen and Peter Henriksen.
Oh, nice.
Peter.
Yeah.
I went to college with Peter.
Yeah, so he's awesome, and he played with us, and I did some of my first drum lessons with Peter. So
awesome! This is great. I need to get Peter on one of these.
Yeah, you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
And another one, I guess, would be Jen Foster, who's another Vancouver-based drummer who I took some lessons with. And she's incredible. And then now, I mean, it's pretty hard to beat Matt Chamberlain. Like Miranda Lambert records are amazing. It's just so tasteful, and you know, he comes up with some wacky stuff, but it fits. Like, it's great. And then I guess at the risk of sounding obvious, John Bonham. Like, I've been like copying a bunch of Bonham fills and stuff, and kind of, you know, trying to lift some of those and learn things. So yeah.
Awesome. Do you have like a 26-inch bass drum, 13, 16, 18? Do you have like the Bonham drum kit yet?
No. I'm not doing that. I can't be carrying those drums around.
Nobody said you had to carry them anywhere.
When you have these conversations, it always feels like John Bonham is, you know, one of the staples. It's like, if somebody's played drums for a long time or played drums for a living, and they don't appreciate or acknowledge the awesomeness and the time that it was being done, it'd be kind of like, again, prejudice. I probably wouldn't like him very much. It'd be like, yeah,
you're not a real drummer.
Yeah, just like, I gotta go. Yeah.
Well, tell us your thoughts then.
For me, we talked about this on the last one, but for me, what made me become a drummer was the Motley Crue Shout Out the Devil video. Watching, you know, Much Music Power Hour, watching Tommy Lee do what he was doing and the pentagrams flying out of the screen and stuff like that. You know, at that age, I was quite young. So Tommy Lee's the reason I started drumming, which is surprising because my dad was a pretty successful drummer in his day. So people always thought, it's like, oh, your dad teach you drums? I'm like, no, he did it all. So it was Tommy Lee, and then in the same kind of, for a couple of years, it was Tommy Lee. And then it was the first time I heard Steve Jordan play A Briefcase Full of Blues, and then went back and realized he was a young dude, the black drummer on David Letterman when he was young. And then the Keith Richards solo records in the 80s was definitely, those two guys were major, major influences for a long time. And now I would say the last few years, I absolutely love Josh Freese. That he can. Awesome. He's so. I saw him play with 9 Inch Nails, and then you see him out with Sting. Then you see him out with his punk band. Then you see him playing, you know, old Sunny Rhodes gig. Like he every single thing he does just incredible. Like, I can't think of a drummer that well-rounded that can play everything as good as he plays it. And he plays it legit. Like, you see him, I can't remember what his punk band, but I mean, he sounds like a hardcore
Vandals.
With that?
He was the Vandals.
Yeah, that's exactly it. You know, and then you see him a month later out in Europe on tour with Sting, and you're like, that's the same guy? Are you kidding me? And then I never studied jazz. I was never really into jazz. In the last few years, Brian Blade, especially with Instagram and watching all the Brian Blade stuff, that guy is just, I just, every time I see him play, it puts a smile on my face. It really does. So those are my kind of two guys back in the day and two guys nowadays that every chance I get to see them or hear them play, I'm all about it. I love it.
Cool. Right on. This is great. Greg.
I guess the drummers that really got me into wanting to be a drummer, I would say there's actually probably three. Stuart Copeland, obviously the Police. Believe it or not, I was really big into Phil Collins in the 80s.
Nice.
Like, I love those big gated tom, like not just the In the Air Tonight, but if you watch some of that footage of like Serious Hits Live in 91, like, or 1990, I think it was, just absolutely amazing band with the horn section, and the drum parts were fantastic. And then the other one, I mean, I really liked Neil Peart back in the day, but I wouldn't say I wasn't one of those guys that felt like I had to study every little thing that he did. I just really appreciated his command of the instrument in that setting with that band. Nowadays, well, also one more from back in that day, I think Vinnie Colaiuta, I probably watched Sting live in Oslo, every day for 5 years. And when I was a kid, it used to piss all my friends off. Just trying to get a glimpse of what Vinny Colaiuta was doing. First time I saw him, I was like, oh, who's that nerdy guy playing with Sting? And then when I watched him play, like, I was like, I will never slag that guy ever again in my entire life. Like, he's a guy like Josh Freese was an understudy kind of his. And like, Vinny's also the guy that you'll see playing on a Megadeth record, and then he's playing on a Faith Hill record, and then he's playing on a Sting record, and then he's out touring with Jeff Beck. And it's just like one of those guys that can literally do everything. He's still an influence for me now. Krista touched on Matt Chamberlain. Absolutely one of my favorites. Love his groove. Everything he plays just seems to be perfect for the song. And who else nowadays? I'm trying to think here. I do love Seosin. One of my favorite songs was Not Alone. But again, there's so many guys, so much stuff to listen to. I still listen to Josh Freese. I was fortunate enough to open for him in Calgary for Stampede. He was playing with Sublime, and I didn't know, and I was playing with another artist. And I looked up on stage, and I saw this DW kit with Peisty cymbals, and I was like, huh, interesting. And then I looked in the stick bag, and I saw Josh Freese model sticks. And I just had that epiphany. I was like, no. And I went over to the crew guy, and I said, okay, so and then he finished the sentence for me. He's like, yeah, it's Josh Freese. And I was like, no way. And he realized I was a big fan, and I was the only person in that whole stadium that night that got to meet him. I had a brief chat with him right before. He literally just came out right before they went on stage, probably because he gets harassed a lot. And yeah, he was cool, man. Super nice guy, obviously. Corbett, I actually snuck some footage of Josh Freese from that show that's never been seen. I've never posted it, but I have him playing with Sublime, and I even stuck the camera underneath the curtain right in behind him. So I have some footage of him that's almost under his seat.
You better share that.
Even just with us five here, that'd be fine.
Exactly. We'll end the live stream, and we'll all stick around, and you can show us.
Can I do that? Is that possible? I mean, I'm not good with this.
I don't know. I can share. Can you guys share screens?
I think we can, yeah.
There's a share. This is the first time I've done this on StreamYard, but there is a share screen. What's it do?
It shares whatever you're seeing.
To someone else?
To us. To the stream.
Oh, okay.
So
interesting. I wonder if
we can end the live. Yeah, you can try and play it if you want. I mean, we can. If you want to keep it private, we can end the live stream, and it could just be us.
It doesn't have to be private. I don't care about that.
If you can try and share it, that's great.
Dude, that's really exciting.
Yeah.
Oh, geez.
It's funny. I kind of have a story similar to that. When I first moved out here, it was a couple of years before I started playing with Hey Romeo, and 3 months after I started playing with them, we went and played BBJ on the main stage at 1 o'clock or whatever, and we finished our set, and there's an hour changeover, and Reba was playing that night, and this old guy with white hair and the glasses hanging here with the little strap around his neck gets out and starts slamming out the heaviest pocket I've ever heard. It was like, man, no, well, I was just like, if that's her drum tech, I mean, what's her drummer like? Like, who is this guy? And came off stage, and I kind of sidled up beside him, and I was just such a chicken shit. But hey, my name's Brendan. What's your name? Greg. Okay. Are you playing with Reba tonight? Yeah, I guess I am. And that was pretty much the end of the conversation. It was like, what? I went and Googled him after, and it was like, oh man, that is so fucked up, this guy, And so I after their set, I was having a shower. It was really gross day or whatever, having a shower, and I step out of the shower. Oh, Jesus. And who's in the bathroom but Greg Morrow and Jeff King, just like standing there. I just shit my pants. It was so bad. But
Greg Morrow is always, he played on a lot of country stuff, but he's really underrated. Clayton does a lot of demos with a guy named Scott Baggett in Nashville, who's actually now, I think, in Muscle Shoals. and he's like best friends with Greg Morrow. So Greg Morrow does all of Clay's demos, which I've had to learn or we've and I'm just like those tracks are glorious. I'm just like, you go into the studio, I'm just kind of like, how about I just try and copy exactly what that is, because I know he recorded it in 10 minutes. It was fucking awesome, you know?
Totally, and he probably played it on those really old Slingerlands that just sound like, you know, God's drums. Just, Greg, are you sharing something?
I don't know if is it working?
Yeah,
it's working.
There we go.
Can you see the video?
Oh yeah.
Oh. Oh, wait. Greg!
Abort.
This is what I need here. There.
Now we're just watching Greg watch this video.
Exactly what's happening.
Oh, it's back.
Now, he's gotta, like, you have to select the video screen. You have to, like... He's totally not streaming it.
No.
This is fun. I'm going to text him. Greg.
Oh, boy. Okay, so it's not working.
Okay.
Hi.
So when you hit share screen, you have to
What do I have to do?
So when you share, you have to go like share screen, and then you have to select the window that it's playing in. So you have to like whatever if you're playing it in QuickTime, you have to select the QuickTime window.
How do I select it?
But it sounds like anyway. So
are they playing a Urbana song?
Hang on a second here. So wait, you guys can't see the VLC window then, hey?
No, you have to select out the one that you want to share.
I should just not use technology at all.
I agree.
Clearly just suck at it so much.
You should just email this to us after.
Sure.
Or post it on just put it on Facebook, man.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, it's time. It was probably taken in I think it was 2011 or 12, somewhere in there.
Right.
So yeah, it's cool footage, and I've never shared it. I've never put it on YouTube or anything. And I know people are always looking for footage of Frasz in that kind of setting. So
I put it up there. Whatever. Who cares?
Yeah, absolutely.
Sorry about all my technological drama today. I have really good internet that was apparently installed by Lucas Holt from Whale and the Wolf, but my internet is continually shitting the bed.
You can blame Lucas.
Wi-Fi. I blame the bass player from Whale and the Wolf. So
me too.
We always blame bass players.
Oh, speaking of bass players, here's Brandy says hi.
Hey, that's my bass player.
Yeah.
Did you guys talk at all about the Bandy app?
We did a little bit. Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Bye.
Yeah, still in beta testing. We're a little behind just for obvious reasons. No one's doing so, but yeah, still going.
Awesome.
Great. Well, anybody else have anything they want to talk about before we wrap it up?
You guys should keep posting drum covers. That's all I have to say. Like Brendan, yours was awesome. The ones like Ben, Bradley, and Casey have been putting up are great. Like you guys are actually good. Most of the people putting drum covers on YouTube, not good. So I've been really enjoying this.
That's probably why I don't put any covers of me doing anything up.
Well, that's a kind of a tough subject, I think. You know, like I know Joel, you're doing a bunch of playthrough stuff and everything, but I find that and this is going to sound so shitty and just like, don't take it the wrong way, but I think all of the people that are working, are good, are recording, we don't have time to post covers.
Totally.
Oh yeah.
Like the video editing thing. I mean, I completely went way overboard on that thing. It consumed me for 3 or 4 days, and it was ridiculous. I have to apologize to Kayla again today for that. Hearing Rosanna 60 times a day, but it's just like,
I'm surprised you'd have to even learn that song. I thought you would just you could just teach that song to people.
It's like, it's not that I didn't know it. It's just like, if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna I'm gonna transcribe it note for note, and then gotta try and get the sounds and gotta get the feel, and like gotta watch some videos and read interviews and like check out the engineering, and it's just.
You know what though, dude? You were one of the few people who like, because I mean, I know that song. I know all the notes, all the fills in that song. And when you posted your cover, I was like, oh, let's see what he does with the tom fill. Because a lot of drummers I see doing the tom fill is just singles all the way down. And I'm like, that is not how that fill is played. And then Brendan goes in with the right, left all the way. And I was like, you played it perfectly.
It's the little things, right? And it's just the time thing. So now that we have tons of time, covers are,
awesome.
Kind of fun. And I'm looking forward to seeing Joel's playthroughs of, a bunch of stuff. And
that's on your note, Brendan. Like I'm just doing stuff for my own bands because I think I have a hard thing with covers in that more times than not, I don't think I'm going to do it's not going to sound as good as the guy on the track. Like for me, and not like, I think there's a ton of value, and especially like massive drummers like Jeff Porcaro, like digging into that sound is such a valuable learning tool, and you absolutely should share that. Like, that's awesome. I'm going to check that out. But for me, I feel like this is a great time to like, get better at what I'm already doing. And also it's a good tool for my bands to be able to share some content right now. So I'm just trying to, that's kind of, I think why I'm kind of going that route. Just, I don't really know that I'm going to do a good job of, I don't know, a cover, but.
Oh man. Well, that's the thing about Rosanna too. Like Ben and Casey, both, you should do Rosanna. Like, nice.
Yeah. I want to hear you do King of the World next time.
Oh man, King of the World is so great.
It's amazing.
And speaking of like drummers that were influenced by and stuff like that, I mean, that Falling in Between, that Toto record from 2007 with Simon Phillips is just like man, that was hugely eye-opening for me. And I used to play Rosanna like Simon did too, so having to learn Jeff's part again was interesting, because Simon plays it completely different, and he has like a bajillion rack toms and 4 arms.
I shared that on Leland Sklar's website. I put it in a post, like in a comment. And Lee Sklar, of course, was bass player for James Taylor, Phil Collins, and Toto. And then he ended up reposting it, and it was super cool. Like, he reposted it, and then I put a comment, and I was like, it must have been great to play with Simon. And then he responded. He was like, yeah, I love playing with Simon. And for me, I rarely ever fangirl over anything these days, but Lee Sklar is a pretty big deal. Like, he's one of my favorite bass players out there in the Cosmos. And, I just really enjoyed that exchange, and they gave him a huge shout out at the end of the live video on that one too. So
he seems like a rad dude. I don't know if you guys know about the book that he has. It's just like a photo album of him giving the finger to like people taking his photo, like take photo with like fan photos, and he'll just be like,
Interesting. Did you adapt anything from that?
Maybe subconsciously. Yeah.
There's rare that there's a picture of you and Kayla without you giving the finger. So
yeah, I don't know where that comes from. I don't know.
I feel like Leland Sklar is probably really ornery in person.
He could be. I don't know. He just seems so laid back in interviews and just so chill. But
don't get me wrong, I like ornery people.
He's like, get off my lawn.
If this pandemic keeps going, I'm going to look like Leland Sklar here.
Yeah, no kidding. Oh man. So I figured, just wrapping up, touching on sharing ideas, working remotely and stuff like that. You guys know about SessionWire. Yeah, that has been huge in getting tracks out, people and working with people remotely. So I just thought I would throw a quick shout out to Session Wire, because it's, streaming high quality audio from your DAW to somebody else's DAW almost in real time is
sweet.
Is very handy. So check it out. They're doing a 60-day free trial during the pandemic. Yeah, worth doing for sure.
I see a lot of people posting with it.
Yeah, it's very neat.
So is that how all these people are doing these? Somebody posts a clip, like Charlie Hunter will post a clip and be like, hey, there's 90 beats per minute, and then they'll show all these random other musicians jumping on. Are they doing that through Session Wire?
I'm going to guess not. I think the Charlie Hunter stuff is probably him just posting he posts like a clip of him playing, and then people just pull it off of Instagram and re-record their part over it. And like Cody did the other day with his.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, Cody did. That's right.
Yeah. So it's a little bit different. This is actually like I could produce somebody from here, and they could record guitar, and I can hear the guitar like they're recording it.
Right.
Into
there's a guy who's got a small studio in Saskatchewan. He does that quite a bit. He's
Brad.
Yeah.
Yeah, Brosco. Yeah.
Speaks highly of it.
Yeah. Very
I'm
much.
jealous of everybody in their home studios. It's something I always stayed away from, and that I think is the reason why I don't do drum covers. Is I kind of feel like if I'm going to put anything up, that it has to be in the quality of like Drumeo or something like that. And maybe that's just my own OCD. Like maybe I need to just, say screw it and just for fun throw some stuff up here and there, because I'm watching all the stuff that everyone's doing, that Brendan's posting, and Matt Atkins and Ben Bradley are going back and forth on it, and it just looks like everyone's having so much fun. I feel like I'm truly missing out on that.
Yeah. I mean, for me, certainly it's less about like watching them. It's less about the quality of the audio and more about just like, whether you're doing like a deep dive like Brendan did, or just, seeing how someone approaches something their own way. Like it's cool to see drummers that I like and respect, and I know have good taste, and like kind of how they're approaching these things. So yeah, you should do one, Greg.
I'll do a Nice Horse cover.
Uh-oh.
As long as there's double kick pedal and stick twirl.
Right. You have to do at least one stick trick. That's
That's another thing that's a whole other thing altogether. Of I'm definitely not a stick trick guy.
That's a lie. I've seen you twirl.
I appreciate it in the right spot in it, but I've seen guys that they're just doing it like constantly, and I'm like, if you're missing shots on the hi-hat and so you can keep doing stick tricks through the whole song, I don't like that. I'd rather, somebody play the song, wait for the perfect moment, and then do like the Tommy Aldridge or whatever, the stick trick. Like in the right spot, it's absolutely brilliant. But I said this to Brendan before, if you do it too much, I feel like it's a Christmas tree with too many ornaments on it.
Yeah.
Just my opinion.
I just do stick tricks when I'm recording in the studio.
Just in the zone.
Yeah.
What's your go-to? What's everybody's go-to stick trick if you have to do one? That's a good maneuver. Like, is it just like the hand?
I can throw it in the air. I'm not so good at catching it, but.
Or the one where you do the twirl like this, or the up and to the side.
I do like the John Blackwell kind of thing. Once I've done it once, and I don't think it ended well. So
I had one that was cool. It was like I spin into the side, and I don't know how to do it with the other hand. But.
You ever see Vinny do stick tricks, or Jeff, or Bernard Purdy? No.
There you go.
Let's be a lesson to us all.
Yeah, there you go.
This is like a side tangent, but
I really enjoyed the segments of chat that were successful with me. I really enjoyed.
Joel, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was just going to say did you guys know Adam Gray at all? He was this like metalcore drummer for a bit. He's a monster, but he was the kind of guy who would be doing, like you were talking about, like nonstop stick tricks, but he would still hit everything, and he'd be playing like this crazy technical metal song, and he'd just be like throwing both hands and doing all the spins and everything.
If he played hook, line, and sinner.
That's right. Yeah.
Dude, his stick tricks and hook, line, and sinner, they're choreographed like pretty clearly, like the same every time. But he does like this like stick trick and a drag across the throat in this like couple of beat break. That's just like, what? Yeah,
it's pretty fun.
I might put that in the comments after.
You're not testing notes. I'm all for it. You know, I've seen too much of the other.
Oh yeah.
Where I'm like the drummer at the wrong gig is the most famous one, arguably. And the thing is, he's actually for the most part hitting all the notes, but I still think it's a little over the top. It's funny to watch, though. I enjoy it.
I agree.
Are you talking about the guy with the pink suit or the Asian dude?
The pink suit.
Oh, that one's good too, though.
Yeah. I'm not. I don't. It's not so much the tricks that get me; it's the guys that are playing the most insane, ridiculous things within a song. You know, I can't get enough of that. I do it at least once every sound check when there's sound checks. But
oh man,
I love it. Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, well, I feel like this is a good note to end on. So,
thanks, Brendan.
Thank you all for joining.
Yeah, thanks, Brendan.
Yeah, I'm gonna keep it going every Friday. I'm working on a couple of
thanks a lot
guests too, so we'll see how the format changes over the next bit. But yeah, Greg's gone.
Oh, Greg's the first one.
Just out of here. I'm watching this back after. This is great.
I think his mic personal massager and backup.
Yeah. Oh yeah, got to get back to that. Yeah, the wand. Well, thanks a lot, guys. Hope you're all doing well and stay in touch.
Yeah,
likewise. Thanks. Great to meet all of you.
Yeah.
Likewise, Joel, Krista, Brendan. Thanks so much. This is great.
This is
excellent.
Fun. Enjoy your week.
You too.
Okay. Bye.
See you later.
See you guys.